The first job of any strategy is, of course, to make sure you create economic value. But once you've created that value, how do you capture it and how do you protect it from customers, suppliers, new entrants, rivals, and so forth? It's a fundamental question in strategy. So let's take, just to think this through, let's take an example of a small family company. It's called Stark Industries. No, not that Stark Industries, this Stark Industries. And Stark Industries, what they do is they have a lot of farmland and they plant basically potatoes and root vegetables. And they've had a banner year, okay, a terrific year. The crops have been great and they've created a lot of value. What happens next? Well, what happens next is what always happens next when you create economic value. You're attacked from all sides. We saw this in the 5 Forces class. So in the case of Stark Industries, they've got to worry about the wildings, coming down from the north. The White Walkers, even worse, coming down from the north. Those pesky fire-breathing dragons. You've got the Ironborn and their ships, and of course their traditional rivals, the Lannisters. So once you create economic value, always, 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 you've got to worry about all these other players coming in and trying to capture the value that you've created. And you have to ask yourself, how do we protect that value? So how can you capture and sustain the value you create? And the legendary investor Warren Buffett is on the record as saying, I look for economic castles that are protected by unbreachable moats. So the idea here, the imagery here is you've created economic value, you erect walls and moats around that value to protect it from stakeholders who might want to capture it. So what are some examples of competitive moats? We'll talk about these as we go through the course, but I just want to give you a quick overview in this video of some of the main categories of competitive moats that can help you to protect and sustain the value that you've created. So first are resources. These are things that you own or control that make it difficult for competitors to replicate or attack your position. So some examples would be brands, and we saw this in Tesla. Tesla created a brand that was distinctive, difficult to replicate, and created willingness to pay. Coca-Cola, a similar example. It could be technology, right? So if you have a patent on a drug for a period of time, you get exclusivity on that. Could be capacity. So think back to the Tesla case and the Gigafactory. Proprietary data that you collect, like Google. So a resource is something that you own, that it's difficult for competitors to innovate around or to attack. And we'll talk more about this in the Burberry case. If resources are what you own, capabilities are what you can do. So if you have distinctive capabilities, that can be another source of competitive protection. And these could be technical capabilities. We saw in the Tesla case, for instance, that Bosch had great expertise in creating subsystems that add a lot of value to an automotive system. Could be post-merger integration, operating costs, processes. We'll see this in the Carnival case. Third category of competitive moats is relationships. So we saw this in Coca-Cola, right? The relationship between Coca-Cola and its bottlers made it very difficult for other potential new entrants to get into the soft drink industry. It could be technical partnerships, Tesla with their partnership with Panasonic for the batteries, for instance. A fourth category is government support, and in some cases this will take the form of a protected core market. So we'll see in the AB InBev case that local beer distributors have regional exclusivity, and that's granted by law. It makes it very difficult for others to get in, and therefore they can protect the value they create. Government ownership, another form of support where your owner is very vested in the success of the company and offers protection. Returns to scale are an important source of competitive protection. And returns to scale take several forms. So one could be a network effect, like Facebook. The value to you as a user of Facebook increases with the number of other users. So whoever has the most users confers the most value to those users, and it's therefore difficult for other new entrants to come in. It could be economies of scale. So if you're a company like Walmart, you can buy in volume, get discounts, and lower your costs. It could be an experience curve. So the more and more you do of something, say Tesla in its battery production, typically your costs will get lower, and oftentimes your quality will increase as well. So scale can confer a lot of protection in certain circumstances. Customer switching costs, another important competitive moat. So imagine you're providing a database for a large enterprise, and once the company locks in to your system, to your platform, it's very costly for them to switch to another platform, and therefore you have a lot of protection from competitors. And finally, agility and innovation, the ability to stay one step ahead of competitors, to seize new opportunities. If you can sustain that over time, can be an important source of protection. So as we go through the course, we're going to talk about, of course, how you create value. If you don't create value, there's nothing to protect, nothing to sustain. But once you've created value, we're going to talk about how do we build these competitive moats and walls that allow a company to capture that value and sustain it over time.